Yeah, MLB Data Warehouse. Where the spreadsheets flow and the takes get spicy. John, Tim, Doc, let's go. Welcome to the warehouse, stat stack to the ceilings. Exit below's flying, launch angles got a feeling. Tim in the corner with the prospect report. Reading fan graphs, blurbs like it's soft-core sport. Junior and double A, Tim's losing.
Welcome to the warehouse. This is your host, Tim Kanak. You can find me on the X at Fantasy Aceball. And we got to get Owen in this. I'm going to just I think I'm going to record over the song, and then I'm going to record over Doc because you've been on more podcasts lately than Doc. So I'm just going to record over Doc's name and go, Owen.
I think I should. I think I should just boycott the pod until Tim gets my name on there.
Yeah, I wonder how Doc would feel about that if I just completely just went Owen right over the Doc part of the rap.
Probably not very good, but
yeah.
I feel like we got room for one more in there, especially if we can add the I feel like the junior and double A part at the end is kind of if we can get that in there, I feel like we can get one more name in there.
Yeah, the questionable thing about AI music is if we tell it, hey, change this part to this, it's going to come up with a completely different song that may suck. So that's the risk that we take. But we don't have to use it.
We
can just try it.
I will say the song itself is kind of a vibe, so I don't really want to change the beat.
Yes.
I feel like it's a good, nice little intro.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, John is the one who made that song. So if he used Suno or whatever, I don't know what app he used. So that's on him, because if I just prompted a new music app to make that song, because I'm the one who made the Doc's Dynasty Warehouse song. But if I prompted it to make a new song, it would not get the beat right. So basically, John has to go onto that chat, just like how if you've ever picked up a Chat GPT or a Claude chat, you gotta continue the thread. You can't just start a new one. I have a super stock investor, Claude, right now. I'm not gonna create a new one. That guy's making me money. I'm not gonna make a whole new thread every time I want to invest. Now I'm using the same Claude thread over and over.
I've been actually meaning to upgrade to Claude Premium, fiddle around with it. I've heard some pretty good things.
Yeah, it's really smart, and it's really good for graphs and whatever. I've been using it a lot for my construction and roofing stuff, actually. But anyway, we're gonna do what we call the call-up corner here on this podcast. So we actually had a decent amount of player debuts over the last week here. Owen, we have. Let's start with, and I'm only going to name the name guys here. We had Mitch Bratt with his weird little skip jump delivery. If you remember him as a 17-year-old or whatever for Team Canada, 18-year-old. The guy has been on the world stage for a while. We had Cooper Ingle, a short catcher for the Guardians, who Doc hates. We have Drew Cavanaugh, a catcher for the Giants, who Buster Posey, I think, likes. So I'm okay. I think I added him actually in a 30-team league, Drew Cavanaugh. And then we've got Sean Keys. I've added a couple shares of Sean Keys. I was actually surprised that Sean Keys got the call after kind of blowing up this year after being not really anyone. But yeah, he jumped up pretty quick. But those are the main guys. Joshua Kuroda Grauer, he just got called up by the Athletics too. So a bunch of call-ups here. Who do you like out of that group, Owen? If you have to pick one.
I've been a big Sean Keys guy for a while, kind of going back to when he was drafted in 2024, just this kind of mid-major guy with really good under the hood numbers. The EVs were really good. The contact rates were also really good. So he's a guy that kind of caught my eye early. It's actually pulling up some of my post history about him. He was a guy that I was targeting in kind of every deep FYPD in the winter of 25. Liked him as a breakout prospect last year, although that kind of came this year. He did kind of shoot up ranks a little bit late last year. But I'm a big Sean Keys guy. I think there's enough power there to play at a corner infield position. I almost kind of liken him to Spencer Horwitz light in the OBP regard with more power. So I think he can be a lot better of a fantasy asset than a lot of people think. And my hot take too is I don't think they called up Sean Keys to let Vlad continue to block him. I do think Vlad Jr.'s leash is getting a lot shorter than a lot of people anticipate. So, I mean, he's a guy right now. He might the first few weeks we may only see him 2 or 3 times a week, but I do think that now that he's at the show now, I think there's a shot that he's going to carve out a more meaningful role than people think.
Yeah, I think here's the trick. Don't drop him like I dropped Esmeralin Valdez. Because, because I had Esmeralin Valdez in a league, and it was a 16-teamer, and I picked him up before, like a few weeks before he got called up, and then he was just riding the bench when he went down, then was riding the bench for like a month, and I was like, man, I'm competing in this league. I need someone who can help me now, and he's not even playing, and I dropped him, and that was like a week ago, and now
Yeah,
he's 4 home runs. He's playing every day. So I think
yeah,
the key, for Sean Keys is don't do what Tim did and just kind of hang on to him. Because the playing time's going to work out for a guy with that kind of power, just like you do with Esmeralin Valdez. Don't pull a Tim. Hold on to Sean Keys. He was a T10 guy last week. I comped him to Vinny Pasquantino light, matched with Tristan Casas, who is obviously like not hurt.
yeah. I mean, I feel like you got to add the not hurt part for Casas because people forget how much hype he had as a prospect coming up, and even kind of going into even after his kind of second season in 24, and then the injuries hit.
Yes.
But yeah, I like Kiesel. I want to say he had like a 154 WRC plus in AAA, which was like one of the tops in the league. He was hitting 284,
164, sir. How dare you? 164.
Thank you. I apologize to Mr. Keys and family. Slashing 284, 409, 619 with 21 home runs, 54 RBIs, a 23.1 K rate, and 13.6 walk rate. Those are really damn good numbers. And he's not a complete net negative defensively either. I mean, he's not a guy you want to be your everyday third baseman ideally, but he's a guy who can be serviceable enough there and kind of take some reps at first base too. So I really like Sean Keys' profile. I've used him in a couple trades recently, but I had I want to say 4 shares of him across my 30 teamers going into this year. So one of my more owned prospects, and I do kind of like both the kind of 50th and the 90th percentile outcomes for Sean Keys.
Yeah, I love the angles. You can't go wrong with those angles. The air pull is pretty sick, and he never hits the ball in the ground. So like a lot of fly balls, a lot of line drives, tons of pull balls, like 55% pull rate. In AAA, he had a 63% pull rate. What? That's just insane. So dude is going for power for sure. So let's get into the T10. A lot of pitchers in this iteration of the T10. A lot of fun new pitchers that we haven't really talked about on the show. So saddle down, get ready. We got number 10 here is Briggs McKenzie with the Braves, who my boy Chris Blessing had mentioned to me, and then I think he put it on Twitter after when I was on his podcast. He was saying that Briggs McKenzie is better than Benetti. He said in his mind, as a guy who watches the Braves org because he scouts in Rome, Georgia, he said Briggs McKenzie is the best pitcher in the organization. Better than Fuentes, better than Caminiti, better than Richie, who was never that high on. But he thinks Briggs McKenzie is the best in the whole org. And maybe a little name association stuff here. But I always thought when Briggs McKenzie, when he was in high school, he reminded me so much of Mackenzie Gore. When I saw Mackenzie Gore coming up, and it's like Mackenzie. It's like, okay, Tim, come on. But it's actually kind of there. He looks a lot like him with a lower arm slot. So he's got a little bit lower. I kind of like his arm slot is somewhere between Mackenzie Gore and like a Nick Lodolo. It's not quite to Chris Sale levels, but it is super low. And from the arm slot, he's got some weird pitches. He only throws 3 pitches. But I threw on the fastball a 45 out of 55 grade. It's a low 90s fastball that has really weird deception to it. It's kind of like a sinker almost in a way. Low arm slot for a taller dude. And then the curveball and the changeup, I threw 60, 70s on both of those pitches. The curveball is his bread and butter. That's what he's known for, is a 3,000 plus RPM pitch. It's like a 10-5 curve. So it's not 11-5. It just has a really weird shape to it. And I'll throw some video up here when Owen's talking. But the changeup, I think, is his most underrated pitch. That is a 86 to 89 mile changeup. The curve is an 80 to 81. And that changeup comes back the other way. The changeup is basically 12-6, but coming from his arm slot, it is so hard to pick up, that pitch is like even better. And I think I saw somewhere that it had a minor league stuff plus of like 148 or something like that on that changeup, just like beyond ridiculous. So Briggs McKenzie, number 10 this last week, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks, 3 hits in 4 2/3. He's a top 250 guy for me, maybe top 200. I haven't moved him up as much as Blessing at this point, but what is your feeling and thoughts on Briggs McKenzie, Owen?
I actually kind of really like the mix, and I now that I think about it, I think you can go as far as to say that he's arguably the highest probability starter of the names that you mentioned. Fuentes is kind of a very fastball dominant guy. It's kind of hard now to envision him as a 3-pitch guy. Owen Murphy throws 92 miles per hour and is a soft tossing righty, which I really, really hate. Caminiti's got a lot of upside. I kind of question just the high effort nature of his delivery. And then I'm not a big J.R. Ritchie guy either. I just think, I think he's got a floor of a long reliever, maybe the ceiling of kind of a back end starter. But I think, Briggs McKenzie could be like viewed as the most surefire bet of those names to be a kind of a good big league number 3. I had some kind of concerns, coming in when he was drafted just about the velo, but I've seen that little tick up as a pro. The curve, the changeup has come along with the curve a long way, which I feel like kind of gives him 2 potential plus secondaries, which is a nice floor, especially with his fastball kind of hitting the mid 90s. I think I agree with you on just kind of I would give him a top 200 guy for now. Just to want to see him build up, want to see him kind of build a bit more physically, and then some more consistency with the velocity would also be a nice thing to see before he's kind of in that top 100 conversation for me.
Yeah, I like that. I've got a 40 out of 60 grade command on him right now. Like, I think he can get to pretty solid command, and maybe it kind of depends on what other pitches he ends up adding to the arsenal and how he builds up his arsenal. But I think a 40 out of 60 right now, like, there's definitely, I think there's more upside than Mackenzie Gore even, because Mackenzie Gore, I think, like, as a prospect, actually had more upside. He's like a prospect who's like been good, but he still hasn't lived up to like the kind of the pedigree or like the name that was expected out of him. Like Mackenzie Gore was like expected to be like an ace or a number 2, and he's more like a number 3 guy. But I guess he was an ace for the Nationals, but that's not the greatest team. All right. So number 9, another pitcher. So like I said, very pitcher heavy. It is Braylon Doughty with the Guardians. So Braylon Doughty with the Guardians in high A, whereas Briggs McKenzie just got to high A. Braylon Doughty has been in high A, and this might have been his last high A start, to be quite honest, because it was so dominant, and he's just been so good from a command perspective. I'm going to throw up his F scores here. You can see a 121 F control on the year. This is actually through 2025 and 2026. We've got our dual thingy up here. He has a 5.7% walk rate over the last 2 seasons, which is just crazy. That's why I give him a 60 grade command. I've got a 60-65 on his command grade right now. And Braylon Doughty has a really nice like kitchen sink type approach. He throws 5 pitches. He throws a fastball mid 90s. I put a 50 out of 60 on that. Curve, I put a 65 out of 70 on. That's a 79 to 83 mile per hour pitch. He has a sweeper that I put a 60 out of 65 on. Then he's got a sinker. That's like a low 90s sinker, 45 out of 50 from me. I don't really like the changeup. It's definitely not a Briggs changeup, an 86 to 88 mile per hour changeup. I put a 30 out of 40 on that pitch. But 2.33 JA ERA so far this year, 32.5 CSW, 7 strikeouts, 0 walks. And this is like almost the classic Guardians pitcher too, where it's like command first guy, not really like high fastball like stuff guy, but he has so many good breaking pitches. He's better than Bybee. Like he has way higher of a ceiling than a Tanner Bybee when Bybee was coming up, because Bybee was more like one good breaking. Like Bybee was like change up and then a breaker, and then it's like in no fastball. Whereas Doughty actually has a better fastball and has a couple breakers. So I think Doughty has a higher upside than like a Bybee, even though he's a smaller frame. I don't know. It's like this is kind of like the Parker Messick thing. These Guardians guys just come up and they just dominate out of nowhere, and they're not striking out 10 strikeouts per game. But if you're 7 Ks a game with 1 walk or whatever, it's a really good pitcher. I comped him to Sonny Gray. So what do you think about Braylon Doughty, Owen?
I think Braylon Doughty is just kind of one of those pitching prospects that's never going to be flashy enough to be a mainstream top 100 guy, but just kind of does a lot of things consistently well, which kind of seems to be a widespread mantra of Guardians pitching prospects. I really like the fastball shape. Just the strikeout to walk ratio is really, really good. A 13.0 swing strike rate as a 20-year-old in high A is also really, really good, which I think, like you said, gives him more of that kind of number 3 ceiling than Bybee had coming up. And again, I don't think Dottie's going to be a guy that will ever kind of have a true ace or even a number 2 type ceiling. But I think he's just one of those high probability starter types that it would be worth looking around in your dynasty league to see if he's undervalued by a potential owner for the kind of lack of upside. But love the organization that he's in. I think the breaking balls are really good. I like the fastball as well. So there's a good starters mix there, and I would not be surprised if we kind of see like a Messick type trajectory for him, albeit in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think he's better than Messick as well. Like he has just more interesting stuff all around. So like you don't want to say a guy's better than a major leaguer, but when he's in high A, but I think the potential is higher. Is I guess what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, really good pitcher here. I think he could be I don't think he's an ace, but I think he's got like really good number 2, number 3 type upside, like a really good like top 40 starter. That's like in a fantasy league, you want him to be like you're an amazing number 4 starter or something for you. Number 8 going up the T10s here is Max Anderson. Max Anderson is a second baseman for the Tigers. A lot of people know who he is. A lot of people kind of expected him to break camp, and there are people this spring that were like, "Oh, Max Anderson is going to break camp instead of Kevin McGonigal because he's older, he's closer, what have you." But Max Anderson started the year on the IL. He had 52 extra base hits in 122 games last year. And this year, he kind of got off to a slow start because he was hurt at the beginning of the year, Owen. He didn't have a spring training to work up. So his first few weeks in the minors were not good. But over his last 37 games, he has 18 extra base hits. He's hitting 303, 349, 542. And last week, he hit over 500 with 5 extra base hits and 2 bombs. And the second baseman right now for the Detroit Tigers is Kevin McKinstry. So it's what's stopping the Tigers from calling Max Anderson up? Really nothing. It's just I think when he's ready, he's going to come up and play because there's nobody blocking him. And he's hitting really well right now. I've got him as a top 200 prospect. I'm going to put his F scores up here in a second. But I comped him to Ernie Clement and Jonathan India mashed into one guy. And I think, like I said, I think he's up any day now.
Yeah, I'm kind of lower on Max Anderson. I do think the org context and the kind of Tigers' lack of second base production kind of gives him some upside there. But kind of looking at just kind of a subpar defensive second baseman in Anderson and just not the lack of kind of elite power or elite contact skills, I think this is a type of profile that can have its challenges to play every day, at least just kind of be that above average everyday regular that you kind of want. So I do think that Anderson's a guy I'd try and use the surface numbers to see if I could use him in a package for a more proven guy, especially in Dynasty. I do think there's still that outcome that he just kind of becomes that kind of scrappy little bit of everything type second baseman. But the EVs are underwhelming. It's an 87.6 average, 6.9 barrel, 32.1 hard hit rate. The launch angles are very mediocre at 10.4. Nothing really stands out about the contact either. He's chasing at a over 30% clip with a sub 85% zone and 78% overall. So I don't really see the offensive upside here. And I think given the defensive limitations, he's going to be more of a utility guy off the bench than an everyday guy. So for those reasons, I'd use the hot streak and the surface numbers to see what I could get for Anderson in terms of a big league talent back.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I've got a 45-55 hit on him. 40-50 plate approach, 45-55 power, and a 40 speed. So it's I'm not the highest on him. I think he's a major leaguer, and he's probably a solid major leaguer who's a 7-hole hitter for the Tigers for the next 10 years. But every team needs that guy. He's a 30-team guy. You probably don't want him in a 12-teamer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Anderson's a guy, if you're rostering him in a league that rosters 200 prospects and he's one of your, middle tier prospects, that's a problem.
Yes. Number 7 is Felnin Celestin, who is on a bender right now. So Felnin I had as like a top 100 guy a couple of years ago. I had a pretty bad year last year, fell off my top 150 even, down to like 200 or 250 or whatever. But he's up in my top 100 again. I've got him in 97 in the last ranking here. And he's been hot. He's been pretty hot lately. Nice EVs. Still only 20 years old, this guy. Still not even 21. So remember that. He has 10 extra base hits in his last 12 games, Owen, with 6 extra base hits last week, 2 home runs, a steal, hit near 400. So Felnin Celestin finally doing it. Big switch hitting shortstop, athletic player, good defender. Really, he's got all the tools you want. He just hasn't really like lived up to them yet. The comparison that I threw on him years ago when I first did his write-up was a Francisco Lindor and Wander Franco mash. And I'm pretty sure I wrote that before Wander Franco decided to go diddle with children. So that was not a negative connotation, I think, when I wrote that. But like the dude does have some of the Wander Franco mechanics, which I mean, like a lot of guys are going to who like grew up watching Franco play because he was supposed to be a superstar. So, you know, if you're switch hitting shortstop, then like that's a guy you're gonna probably look at and try to model your game after. So, but Felnin, I think he's finally starting to break out here. Owen, what do you think about Felnin?
Yeah, so I definitely think between the defense at short and the kind of power projection as he matures physically, there's enough upside there to be a regular at shortstop. I'm also very, very encouraged by he's lifting the ball a lot better. Back in kind of 2024, his kind of first year stateside, he was running a kind of near 65% ground ball rate. Now this year in high A, that's down to 42.7. So taking a lot of strides in the right direction. So kind of seeing some of the raw power actualized into game power a little bit. I would say Felnin for me is probably a top 150 guy right now. I want to see a little bit more sustained before I kind of put him back in that top 100 range. But I do still think the upside is there to be kind of an everyday type of player. And I still think there's a buying opportunity in some dynasty leagues right now. See if you can kind of get in on yesterday's price before the helium catches up into the price tag.
Yeah, here he is hitting the cycle the other day. But talk about helium. When you hit it for a cycle, then that's going to blow up all over the internet. But I think he's just still super raw. Like I've got a 40-55 hit tool on him and a 45-6 out of 60 plate approach, and then a 40-55 power. So like he's still so far from his peak peak projectability as a 20-year-old. Not everyone is Jesus Mate and can just like superstar it out the gate. Some people take a little more time to develop, and I think Felnin has all the tools there to be a really, really good player for a long time, and it's just a matter of him reaching that potential. So that's where I'm at on him. But number 6, moving up here, this is a big name. Everyone's talking about this guy specifically today. For whatever reason on X, like everybody has been talking about this guy. It is Christian Zazueta. Because I think that because TJ Stats posted about him, and then everyone started tagging in. And I put a thing on X or whatever, and I was like, this is Joe Ryan Jr., which I really think he is. If you watch him pitch, he's got like the same exact mechanics. But anyway, I am trying to pull him up here on the thingy as I'm posting. But this last week, 8 strikeouts, 0 walks, only 1 hit in 5 innings. That was 60 pitches. And as far as pitch mix, he throws a fastball, mid-90s, gets up to 97, 98 on that fastball from a very, very deceptive arm slot. And when you see the video, when we put the video up, you'll see what I'm talking about. He also has a changeup that's a low 80s changeup, a 55 out of 60 is what I put on that changeup. And then he throws a cutter, gyro slider, whatever you want to call that pitch, mid 80s, gets up to 87, 50, 55 on that pitch. Sweeper, 40 out of 45. Command, I give him a 55 out of 65. I've got him as a top 250 pitcher. A lot of people are really, really high on him. You can see that the F scores loves him. 113 stuff, 122 control. It also helps that he's already in AA as a 21-year-old for the Dodgers. I guess the only reason that I'm not as in it as other guys, like I really like him, but some people are like going hard, like comparing him to Kate Anderson and stuff like this. I'm not accusing my boy Eric of doing that, but he did match him to Kate Anderson, and it's like he's not that good. Hold your horses here because like his fastball is really really good, and his changeup is good, but the breakers need a lot of work in my opinion. I don't think that they're great. I think they're good, but not great. So I think right now with that he profiles as like a worse Joe Ryan, not like hey, this is like gonna be a Joe Ryan ace guy. Like I don't really see that. I do like that the Dodgers are promoting him quickly because the Dodgers are a team that will usually just let their pitchers sit in A ball until they're like 27 years old. And then they're finally like you get River Ryan at 28 years old after 2 Tommy Johns or whatever, finally making an appearance. It's like the Dodgers way with all their pitchers for whatever reason, except for Clayton Kershaw. So I do like the fact that they're aggressive with him, but I do have breaking ball development concerns because, like, if you just watch him, he's just so very fastball changeup heavy, and that can work sometimes in the minors, and that can have issues sometimes once those types of guys get to the majors, even with the deception in the profile. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely share some of the same concerns. I do have. I had a lot of Zazueta shares entering this year. I just kind of recently dealt one of them in a trade for Hunter Brown and one of my 30-teamers. But I like the fastball changeup combo, but it's kind of it's similar to the concerns I had with Jonah Tong, where it's like you can be kind of too pitch heavy of a guy when you're in kind of high A, double A, but when you get to kind of triple A in the majors, that becomes a problem because you need both of those to be, you know, unless you're like kind of a Logan Henderson and kind of can get both of those consistently going at their best. If one of those pitches isn't working, then you don't have a reliable third pitch that can kind of get hitters of that caliber out. But that being said, I still do like Zazueta a little bit. I think between the fastball changeup and really good command, there's a lot to like from a 21-year-old starter in Double A. He's got just over 2 walks per 9 this year between high A and Double A. The FIP is kind of also slightly lower than his ERA. Another thing that is his ground ball rate is a little bit lower than I'd like. It's 37.4 between high A and Double A. Maybe that's attributable to kind of being a fastball changeup heavy guy, but I think that and then how a potential secondary pitch develops are going to be a couple things to watch that for now are going to keep Zazueta out of my kind of top 2 tiers of pitching prospects.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. Need to see more. Need to see the breakers. Number 5. This is a fun name. Fenwick Trimble. Is that the nerdiest name in baseball, Owen?
I mean, it sounds like a name out of like Harry Potter, like, you know, one of those Gryffindor names in Harry Potter. Isn't there a Professor Trimble in Harry Potter now that I think about it?
There should be.
Wrong about that. I could have sworn there's a Professor Trimble.
Maybe it should be, dude.
Something like that. But that's just such a Harry Potter name to me.
I will say, though, that this guy's kind of built. Like, if you've seen him, he got kind of ripped. But he's a 4th rounder out of James Madison in the Marlins org. And he's got strong this year, which is why he's having a really good year this year. Like, this dude got kind of built. He had a good season in the gym, good offseason in the gym. But this year he's hitting 273, 351, 430, or 458 with 10 bombs, 27 extra base hits, 17 steals. So he's pacing to be like a 20-30 guy in the minors right now. And this last week he hit 400 with 6 extra base hits, 2 bombs, 2 steals. You can see the F scores, hundreds across the board here, this is the John approval stamp. When you have a over 100 F score on every single thing, then John is like, okay, stamp of approval from MLB Data Warehouse right there. But 74% contact rates. I give him a 40 out of 50 on the hit, 45-55 plate approach, 45-50 power, and 60-60 speed. So the dude is not that fast. He's like kind of fast, but he's a very good base runner. But I think that he's getting into more power, and I think he could get into even more power from what he's been doing because, like, he just, like I said, like he's been working hard in the gym and he's making it work. And like I comped him to a Lane Thomas and Mitch as a Double-A outfielder. And I'm going to put some video up here because you can see he looks like Lane Thomas at the plate. And he's kind of got that Haneker build. That's where I came up with that one. Because I'm like, I use Lane Thomas as a comp way too much for any normal human. But I'm a Cardinals fan. And I watched Lane Thomas for a lot of years, so I can't help it. It's just in my brain now. Sorry, people. But what do you think about Fenwick?
I think one thing to watch with him is the contact rates have dipped a little bit this year, so that's something that I'll be keeping an eye on. Granted, that's kind of come with a bit more aggression at the plate, but that's also come with a kind of dip in the walk rate. So that's kind of something that I'm watching a little bit, because when you don't have an elite power guy, you kind of want him to do, at least hit enough, or at least like get on base at a really good level, like the previously mentioned Spencer Horwitz. But I kind of liken Trimble a little bit, almost to kind of how like an early Jaron Duran type, like maybe a kind of a 15-20 guy who can kind of maybe develop a bit more pop as he continues to go. Really really good athlete. Like the slash line looks really good. It's interesting when you look at a prospect like Trimble that is just so like anti Miami Marlins. Like he just breaks away from the mold of hitters that they usually have in their minor league, and that these kind of like 30 home run or bust guys. But I think Trimble's an interesting prospect. Still kind of a deep league guy for me right now, versus a guy who's kind of worth adding in a shallow. But I do think there can be some fantasy value here, especially in 5x5, as a guy that can kind of give you average power, average speed, and average OBP if the contact rates can kind of hold up as he moves up.
Yeah, I've still only got him at top 500, so I'm not going crazy on him. But he has been very good, and there's some proximity here. I think he's like, at worst case scenario, like a pretty good fourth outfielder. I mean, Marlins aren't stacked, so he probably will get some starting run at some point. Marcy has taken a step backwards in the org. Number 4, this is a name that I'm super excited about, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on him, because this dude is he's Red Sox. We got number 4 here, starting pitcher Dylan Brown with the Red Sox in high A. And I'll tell you, Owen, when I was watching him, I'm like, this guy's like a better version of Jake Bennett. That's just like, I was like, that's exactly what he reminds me of when he's pitching. He just like looks exact. And I'm just like, okay, is this like the Red Sox thing now? Just get a bunch of lefties with insane extension, and like, that's it. Let's just get every big lefty with insane extension and put them all on the same team. But yeah, Dylan Brown is 6'5", 230 pounds. Let me put him up here. I'm going to put he's got really good F scores too. So 6'5", 230 pounds, 110 stuff, 107 control, 106 FERA, 242 JAERA, 17.3% swing strike rate on the season, with a 32% CSW, 23.8 K minus walk. And so he's a big time ground ball guy too, which is this is another reason I really like him. He has a 54% ground ball rate on the year. And he's also really consistent. So check this out. Here's his starts for the year. In his starts for the year, he has 7 outings of more than 7 strikeouts, and he only has 1 outing where he's had more than 3 walks. So you can see his walk totals. Only 1 time did he have more than 3 walks, and 7 different times he had 7 strikeouts or more on the year out of like 14 starts. So that's pretty good for Dylan Brown. But Dylan Brown, fastball, he throws like low to mid 90s. I put a 50 out of 55 on the fastball. But again, he has really good extension because he's a huge lefty. And he's got a 3/4 arm slot, and his fastball is more of a run over ride type fastball. And then, like I said, he gets a lot of ground balls. So it's not a sink. Even though it's not a sinker, it's just the arm slot makes it kind of look like a sinker. Then he's got a sweeper that I give him a 60 out of 65 on, a changeup that's low 80s that I give him a 50 out of 55, a cutter that I gave him a high 80, or it's a high 80s mile per hour pitch. I give him a 40 on. And command, I gave him a 45 out of 60. I think he can get that command up even more. And I have him as a top 300 prospect right now. So Dylan Brown is a 10th rounder an 8th rounder out of Old Dominion from the last draft. And here's a fun fact. He is teammates with Blake Morgan, who is also breaking out with the Rays right now. And Blake Morgan was a T10 pitcher last week and almost made it again this week. So Blake Money Morgan and Dylan Brown, Old Dominion teammates, late rounders, just killing it in high A. I think actually that Morgan's in low A, but Dylan Brown in high A. What do you think about Dylan Brown, Red Sox prospect?
I'm interested in Brown. I think the fastball changeup is really, really good. I think you could say like the changeup right now is a major league quality pitch. Still, there's still some development left to be had there. But I think between the extension, the fastball, and the changeup, there's like the early makings of a future kind of back end starter or more with upside, which is a really, really good developmental find in the eighth round. Good strike thrower. I
And
just
Brown's
think mainly you want to see some consistency with the breaking balls. But I think both from like a fastball velo changeup perspective for a lefty, he's in a good spot.
Yeah, I think so too. We can see his pitches right here. Like his arm slot is just tough, especially for low A guys from this big dude, crazy extension. So, yeah, I'm a fan. Gotta like 11 Ks, which is what he had last week. I don't think I mentioned that. So last week he had 11 strikeouts, 0 walks, 2 hits in 7 shutout innings. So really strong start for Dylan Brown with the Red Sox last week as we're watching him. Number 3 on the list is another Marlins outfielder, Cam Cannarella. So we got here Cam Cannarella with the Marlins is really like taking off. I liked him out of college a lot. He played at Clemson, so ACC guy. And in the FYPD stuff last year, I think I had him in as like rated as like a first rounder for FYPD, even though he was a second round pick. But I comped him to Brandon Nimmo when he was FYPD, and I kind of still really like that comp. Lefty, 6 foot, OBP guy, like really insane plate skills, really solid hit tool, and then kind of like average to above average power and speed. So I give him a 55-60 hit, 60-65 plate approach, 40-50 power grade, and 50-60 speed. And the reason I gave him a 50-60 speed is the same reason Brandon Nimmo probably has a 45-60 speed. Brandon Nimmo, if you ever look at sprint scores, is like always one of the top sprinting players in the MLB, but he never steals bags because he's just not a good base runner. And I think it's kind of the same thing with Cannarella. Cannarella is actually like super fast, but he only has 7 steals. He's just like, and it's like, why? And he doesn't run very often. He's like a 13% attempt rate, 14% attempt rate. And I think it's just because like, maybe he's just like, I just am not that great of a base runner. Like I know I'm fast, but he just doesn't have that skill down because base running is a skill. It's not just all based on foot speed. And he's kind of got that going on, that Brandon Nimmo, like weird, like I'm fast, but I don't want to run type thing. Or like how we've seen with Mike Trout for the last like 10 seasons, how Mike Trout is still like a top 10 sprint speed guy, but he just like doesn't steal ever since he got hurt, which makes sense. But Cannarella was hitting 374, 448, 585 and on the season. And what did he do last week? Okay, so he's what 14 extra base hits in 40 games, so not a lot of extra base hits, a lot of singles for Cannarella, a lot of walks for Cannarella. But last week, 3 home runs, 3 steals, 4 total extra base hits, and that's why Cannarella is number 3 on the T10. You see the F scores love him. A 111 hit tool is absolutely insane. 82% contact rates. Like this guy barely chases, almost walks just as much as he strikes out. Really good hitter, and he's not Steven Kwan. Like he's better than that. So that's why I put the Nimmo comp on him. What do you think about Cannarella?
Definitely still a little bit kind of hesitant on the power. The ground ball rates are still a little bit high, but like just as you mentioned, just kind of the hit tool and the defense alone could be enough to kind of get him as a fourth outfielder type in the majors. So I think there's a good floor. It's interesting to see if like I know he had like some he had like some I think it's labrum surgery when he was in college that just really took a hit on his arm strength. So kind of curious what the long-term defensive position is, especially if he's a guy who's like, you know, kind of a 12 to 15 home run guy. I don't know if his arm would be, you know, worth like, you know, or be all that playable in the outfield. So still definitely have some questions, but I do think there's an intriguing floor. That being said, if you have a fantasy guy that's kind of pushing him as a potential top 100 guy, I would take the opportunity to sell. I just don't think I don't think the offensive profile is complete enough for that yet.
Yeah, I've got him at top 250, so I definitely have not pushed him that high yet. And I think he's going to be a better real life and points league player or OBP player than he will be for like a 12-team Cats league or something like that. So like if
I
you're in like a
agree.
12-teamer, I wouldn't be going after him. But if you're in like a league like I'm in, like a 16-team Otanu league, he's actually a decent buy in that right now because he's already at AA. He's a very professional hitter. There's a very good chance he could break camp with the Marlins as soon as next year. So if you could get him in like a points new like deep league for like $1 or something right now, that's actually a pretty decent buy, I think.
I agree with that, and I think it's like there's a lot of similarities in my eyes to like a Dante Nori type player who's like a guy who's like hit 201 OBP you'll want in points, and who could be a nice leadoff guy that and that'll give you good ratios. But when it comes to 5x5, especially with his lack of base stealing and kind of questionable power, just a guy that I think could be overvalued by prospect rankings than the value he'll end up giving you.
Yep. All right, next on the list, this is a fun prospect that a lot of people have probably never heard of. It's Brady Smith with the Dodgers. So another Dodgers pitcher. This is the third Dodgers pitchers in the T10 over the last 2 weeks with Cam Leiter last week.
Wasn't he named after Tom Brady? I swear I was seeing something.
Was he really?
About him that he was. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! I like half a Dodgers pitcher named after Tom Brady. Do I have to hate him now?
Hold on, I could have sworn I'm gonna Google that just to clarify, but I'm pretty sure I saw something about that.
All right, so Brady Smith was a high schooler drafted by the Dodgers in the 3rd round in 2023, even though he needed Tommy John. So they drafted him knowing he needed Tommy John in the 3rd round, which tells you how good the Dodgers thought he is. And the Dodgers are really, really freaking good at prospecting. And this kid last year was really rough because he was returning from Tommy John surgery. So he had like a 20% walk rate. But he's got a really slot. I said it's like a 1 or 2 o'clock over the top arm slot because it's kind of over the top, but not all the way. Not quite Trey Savage, but like halfway to Trey Savage. But he's got a 5-pitch mix. He has a 17% swinging strike rate on the season so far, a 30% K- walk rate. This dude is just completely breaking out. This last week, 11 strikeouts, 0 walks, only 1 hit, and 66 pitches. Still went 6 innings. With 11 dude, to go 11 strikeouts in 6 innings with only 66 pitches is insane. Like how many strikes? Think about that, Owen. How many strikes do you have to throw? Like how many balls did he throw that game? Like 0? Like you can't if you're striking out that many dudes in that few pitches and still go 6 innings. It's crazy.
I mean, so he was not in fact named after Tom Brady. I was wrong about that, but I mean this guy's striking out almost 15.2 per 9, which is absurd.
Yeah, he's really, really good, and the Dodgers just basically destroyed everybody on this fine because he had to get Tommy John out of high school, so nobody wanted him. And then the Dodgers drafted him in the 3rd round and paid him a lot of money as a Tommy John high school kid. Like, so risky, and it's worked. He throws a fastball up to 98 miles an hour. I give him a 55 out of 60 on the fastball. Changeup is mid-80s. I gave him a 65 out of 70 on the changeup, Owen. When you watch this changeup, I think this might be one of the best changeups in the minors. Like I mentioned in my T10 article that this is 100% a top 5 changeup in all of the minor leagues. And this guy is in low A. And I think it could be like number 1. Like this is maybe my favorite changeup. And it's not a splitter. It's like my favorite non-splitter changeup in the minors. He has a high 80s slider.
I'm looking at this, and it says 703K for the signing bonus. So that's that's a round 3rd round slot too. If it makes you hate him anymore, that's not significantly over slot for 3rd round.
It's just a classic Dodgers move to just get this kid who turns into an ace off of Tommy John, a high school kid, like 21 years old now. I think he's going to move kind of fast because he seems like he's really like healthy now versus last year. The slider is a gyro slider, 86 to 89 miles an hour. I put a 40 out of 55 on that. He has a cutter too that he throws 90 to 92. I put a 50 out of 50 on the cutter. A curveball. I think that the curve, and this is the funny thing, when he was drafted, the curveball was his best pitch. I think it's his worst pitch now. I give him a 30 out of 50 on the curveball. And the only reason I even gave it a potential 50 is because it has so much spin. Like the RPMs on the curve are ridiculous, which is literally the whole reason he was drafted. Like if you look at like video or whatever in high school, or like read content about him in high school, it was all this guy has a lot of RPM on the curve. He has to get Tommy John. It's a dart throw for the Dodgers. We'll see what happens. But now he's like this fastball, ridiculous changeup, and this curveball is his worst pitch. But it could have a ton of potential. And I give him a 40 out of 50 command. He's a top 300 prospect for me right now, Owen. I think this kid, if you can get him in any league, like go get him. Before I wrote this article, I looked in every single league, every like 30 teamer I was in to see if he was available still. So I'm like, I need to get this kid. I think he's a lot of fun. I'm going to put some video up while you talk about Brady Smith.
Yeah, I think there's definitely I think there's an interesting like early starters mix here for Smith. One thing that is interesting to me, just in kind of and what I've seen too, is I think the fastball too, the shape is kind of average, especially when he can kind of miss his spot in the zone. So I think it's kind of a very location dependent pitch. So I think that's just something to watch too as he moves up. I'm just a little concerned. The shape doesn't really stand out to me. So I think it's something that could fool like hitters in low A. But when you have kind of mid 90s with a kind of average shape, once you get that to kind of upper minors hitters, they're not going to be fooled by that even up in the zone anymore. So that's kind of my main concern. But I think, like as you mentioned, just between the changeup and even having a kind of mid 80s, low to mid 80s curveball that he can still locate as his worst pitch is a really, really good floor to have for an arm in low A.
Dude, did you just see that changeup? did you see? We're gonna play this pitch again. Watch this changeup. Like what?
That's absurd.
that's
absurd. There's got to be at least 15 inches of drop on that.
Yeah, that has the most ridiculous movement of any changeup. I think he throws it again here in a second. Because we're watching this the second time through. Yeah, look at that.
Oh my God.
Against righty and lefty. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that just starts like a fastball and then just drops like right when it's about to hit the catcher's mitt.
Yeah, that changeup is amazing. So Brady Smith, amazing changeup. The fastball, like you said, it's all about deception of the arm slot, because he has kind of a more over the top arm slot. It does get good IVB, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And that kind of works. That type of arm slot and that type of fastball works pretty well with splitters, which we see with like Savage. So his changeup, it's not a splitter. Like I read about it. It's not a splitter, but it moves like a ridiculous splitter. It doesn't have the same speed. It's slower than a splitter, but it has that ridiculous movement on it. And I think because it's slower, it gets that movement. But I think that's what makes him fun, is that fastball changeup combination. So number one, let's get to number one on the list here. This guy's been around for a hot minute. It is Henry Lalane with, I don't know if it's Lalane or Lalane. I want to say Lalane. I'm going to make this guy Hawaiian. We're going to make him like...
I think he's French.
What is French then?
I don't know.
I never took French.
I thought he was like a French descendants or something when he was signed.
Oh, I don't know, man. I'm gonna call him Hawaiian because it's more fun. It's like McLovin. Lalane is like a little bit like our McLovin here. But
I'll send you this picture too. But his like delivery face is so funny to me. It's almost like kind of like a like one of those like penguins from Madagascar type, where he just kind of like is. It's just so funny to me. I just can't take the guy seriously. But just something I thought I'd note before we get into the real heavy hitting stuff.
Yes, the face matters. That's a doc commentary right there. That's all right. You didn't talk about his diapers. You didn't talk about the baby powder that mom and dad gave him. You didn't talk about some mysterious car crash that he was in at the age of 7. Which are total doc things. But Henry Lalane with the Yankees, A-ball pitcher. This dude had a ton of hype, like 2 or 3 years ago, because he's a 6'7" giant lefty who throws hard, and he's a Yankees prospect. So everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's gonna be the next Randy Johnson," blah, because he's big and lefty and he's on the Yankees, and all the Yankees fans want that. But he was terrible. He's been terrible for like 2 years in a row. But he might finally be getting his stuff together because he's coming off of a few decent, good starts. So here's a note that I made. And this is the kind of analysis you get from me, Owen. You're not going to see this on TJ Stats. Henry Lalane, since 523, stopped throwing his fastball as his primary pitch and started throwing his slider as his primary pitch. Prior to May 23rd, throughout his career, the slider was his number 3 pitch. He was throwing fastball, sinker, slider. Now the slider is his number 1 pitch. He increased usage from about 19% to 31% since May 23rd. And over this time period, that slider has a 49.7% CSW, which is what? Half of the time he throws that pitch, it's a called or swinging strike with a 24% swinging strike rate. So that's ridiculous. And it is now his number 1 pitch. And since he's made the slider his top pitch, now all of a sudden he's really, really good. He's had 12 strikeouts last week with 0 walks, only gave up 1 hit in 7 innings. And we can see here, look at his starts since May 23rd. Look at this. He was only getting 4 and 5 strikeouts. From May 23rd, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. 7 strikeouts, 0 walks. 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. 8 strikeouts, 2 walks. 8 strikeouts, 4 walks, and then we have his newest season is not loading on here, but that's the one where he had 12 strikeouts with 0 walks. So Henry Lalane has been an absolute stud ever since he made his slider his number 1 pitch that he's throwing. And you could see, since he's an A-ball, we actually have statistics for him. But for whatever reason, John's thing is missing the last start on here. He didn't update this Tableau page, I guess, over the last night. But fastball, he throws up to 99. I give him a 50 out of 60 on the fastball. Obviously, the slider is really freaking good. So I gave it a 60 out of 70, even though it's a really slow slider. He throws that slider 78 to 82 miles an hour. You can see right here that it averages 79 miles an hour on that slider. The changeup, I gave him a 60 out of 65 grade. It's a mid-80s changeup that actually is really good. You can see that changeup has a 22% swinging strike rate. He just doesn't have the best command of it because it was only with a 22% swinging strike rate. You should have over 35 CSW, but he doesn't. He's not getting called strikes on that changeup. And then the sinker is a bad pitch. I don't know why he throws it so much. It's not good. It's got a 6% swinging strike rate and a 27% CSW. He should probably just not throw that so much, especially because his four-seamer already looks like a sinker. His four-seamer has a ton of horizontal movement already. So I think there's not enough separation between those two pitches. If I were him, if I were his pitching coach, I would say, ditch the sinker, bro, and start throwing a gyro slider. And then you've got your really loopy slow slider. Then you've got a fast gyro slider, and you've got a fastball that are all going to bridge against each other. Your fastball already looks like a sinker, and that's going to bridge against your changeup. So if he just ditched the freaking sinker and started throwing a gyro slider, this would be a really, really nice pitcher with a really good arsenal because the rest of his pitches are all really good. His biggest problem is command, 35, 45 grade command, and that's why he's still only a top 400 prospect for me, even with all these changes, but it's enough to be T1 here. And I think worst case scenario, Owen, I think he's a reliever. I comped him to AJ Puck. So I think he could be an AJ Puck, a giant lefty with a couple good pitches who can pitch out of the bullpen. Unless he develops a really good gyro slider, then maybe he's a good starter.
Yeah, no, it kind of reminds me too of the LaGrange arc from 2025 too, who just kind of was injured and then just kind of rocketed up. Because I remember how bad his stuff was last year. His fastball was like down to 92 from like averaging 97 before his surgery. His changeup was like it was just like a very generic pitch mix, which is a kind of far cry from a $4 million+ international top signing in the Yankees organization. But now it's like the mix is looking a lot better. I pulled up his StatCast from that start, his last start Friday in single A. And it's like, you know, his four-seamer, he's getting that up to, he's averaging 97 on that with an average of 19 inches of vertical break. Like that, I think is a little bit, I would say that's a 55 fastball even. That's a good fastball. And then I with the curveball and the slider, like, and the sinker, I think it's I think it's a potential starters mix. Would like to see some more refinement in some of those secondaries, but I think this is a guy who could, I mean, just on the sole fact he's a Yankee prospect, very much like shoot back up rankings this season. But I think I would say the future outlook, whether he's a starter or a reliever, is still kind of to be determined.
Yeah, I agree with that. So that's a fun T10 that we had for you. A ton of pitching, a lot of good video here. I was actually able to produce pretty well, I think, in this one because I had Owen to help me. Unlike the last couple where I've been doing it by myself, it's been a little rough production. So thank you, Owen, for jumping on. Love to have you back now that you're actually kind of establishing a schedule for yourself there in Cali. And look how beautiful this is for you. It's like nighttime for me. I have to like go put my kids to bed, and then you've got a whole afternoon ahead of you still. It's sunny. You're at like a winery or something, right? You're at like a winery.
Yeah, no, I'm on a fruit farm. It's 6:30. The sun doesn't set until after 8. Just
a fruit farm
beautiful.
In California is a winery, right? Like that's the only
pretty much, yeah. I mean, there's like a bucket of pomegranates just right on our doorstep for whenever I just get the urge to just get some fresh fruit. But I will say those things are a pain in the ass, especially with the heat to scrape off your car. But other than that, I have no complaints.
I will gladly pay $7 or $8 at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's for the cup of pomegranate seeds that are already pre-prepared just to avoid the hassle.
I mean, it's like we have the trees like everywhere, so there's like one right over the hot tub, so sometimes they'll just fall right in and you can just grab them right there.
Love it. It's mango season here in Florida, and I had some amazing mangoes the other day. But talking back about baseball, if you want the other write-ups, we have 5 more gentlemen. Xavier Nayans, Ryan Sloan, Gage Stanifer, Bo Davidson, and Yoiker Fajardo, who made the top 15 that I write up in the article. If you want those write-ups, you have to subscribe to MLB Data Warehouse. So make sure you subscribe and check that out. And when you subscribe, make sure you tell John you're subscribing because of Tim and Owen. Don't say, hey, John, here's money and just give it to him. Like, say, this is for Tim and Owen. You be kind and split the profits with them, split the proceeds with them. Owen is in California now. He has to pay for California rent. Let's hook him up with a little coin here. It's expensive. I'm sure his internship is a negative, a net negative as far as profit margin. Thanks to living wages and just knowing how much internships pay, if it's even paid. Is it free or paid? Are you getting paid?
It's paid. I won't disclose exactly how much, but it is paid.
Oh, that's good. At least they're paying you something, because I had many internships in college that were not paid, and it was slave labor. It's legitimized slave labor in America.
Oh yeah, no, it's like, especially like last summer. Originally, mine was unpaid. It ended up being paid, but I was doing 60-hour a week, and so if that unpaid would have been like literally slave labor.
Yes, that's grueling. Yeah, exactly. The only good thing is that you have all of your limbs. You're not in a factory. You haven't lost an arm in between giant gears or something like you would have 150 years ago. But
well, definitely not. The weather's very nice. There's some very nice beaches. I'm not very thrilled at the price of beer or the price of gas, but other than that, I can't really complain too much.
Yeah. Florida is like the same kind of, I guess, as far as like when it comes to beer. I think gas is better here. But if you go out, drinks are super expensive in Florida. You have to drink at home. It's the only way. Or you've got to sneak in. Or you got to pregame. You got to figure out ways around paying for $18 drinks when you go out.
Well, I mean, it's like I'm not, I feel like I'm not that difficult. I don't need my mixed drinks. I just want to, have a nice beer every now and then. The little things, and it's like, I don't want to pay like, $9 before a tip for a beer.
That's life, man. Any brewery, that's what you get. All right, that's
So I do want to add something here. Just I feel like I should be contributing something. A guy is asking me about Zach Neto in one of my dynasty leagues. I thought this would be an interesting tidbit. He says, the Miguel Vargas hype is like kind of way out there. He approached me. He's like, "Would you do a Vargas plus deal for Nito?" And so I sent him Rafaela, Ballesteros, and Vargas for Nito and Nick Gonzalez, and that was swiftly rejected. So I think Miguel Vargas is being valued as a top 50 asset now.
That's
Just
crazy.
an interesting note there. I mean, I think it's crazy. I think Nito is closer to Tatis, and like Vargas is I'll give him like back end top 75 asset, but
he's a righty Jay Cronenworth. he's just younger. He's having his peak Jay Cronenworth seasons right now.
Well, I actually do. I've been a Miguel Vargas guy for a while, so I do like Vargas a bit. It's not purely enough for me to just shut it down, but at the same time, it's like if you think Vargas and a couple top 250 guys is too much for Nito and a third baseman having a really good season, yeah, go kick rocks.
Yeah, I'm on your team. I'm with you on that one.
I thought that was an interesting note. So I think it's interesting what a few months can do to a 30-30 candidate's value like Zach Nito off to a slow start, or what it could do to Miguel Vargas. And I'm curious if if that's what Miguel Vargas is being put at, what's Jordan Walker being valued at now?
Yeah, that's a good question. In our 30-teamer, I could have had Jordan Walker for free, basically, from Doc. He offered it to me for like nothing, and I didn't take it. I was like, I think he's toast, and now I'm really upset about that one.
Fun story on that. In that same league, right before he ended up trading him for Trevor Rogers, I had like the second highest offer. I was offering him Cal Stevens straight up for Walker, which he said he even noted was a really strong offer, and I'm so pissed that someone decided to offer Rogers, because if not, I would have had Jordan Walker.
Yeah, that's rough. But I did get Baez from him, and he's been trying to trade me guys for Baez all year ever since then. So,
well, nobody ever makes trades with me in that league unless it's like the only genuinely the only trade I've been offered all year in this league was like Cash Mayfield and a late pick for Anthony Ianson, and I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
But I never get anything serious offered in that league.
It's hard until the deadline because of the salary. Because this is what makes it hard. You can't trade money. If you could trade money, then it would be much easier. It's like Adnu. You can trade salary in Adnu to even it out. But you can't trade like a $35 million guy that you're not going to re-sign for like a $1 million guy, because nobody has that kind of cap space to eat that. That's what makes it so tough.
It's like, even I remember when I traded like Bo Bichette at like last year's deadline, he was like a 28 million expiring. I basically took on Troy Melton and a bunch of matching salary. It's like that actually kind of worked out kind of fine, because I have, now I got 2 more years of Melton on a rookie contract. But it's when you have that big of a salary attached to a guy with a $156 million cap, you just don't get the value that you really feel like you should. Basically, like Melton is the only piece I received that's still on my team. It was like Christian Encarnacion, Strand, Heston Kierstad, and a bunch of other salary bums just to make the salary work.
That's a good way to put it, salary bums, because that's what you have to do in that league. You have to take if you're going to actually make a trade and get a prospect, you have to take on salary bums just to get the prospect.
Oh yeah, no, and it's like I have a lot of like really good prospects, but it's like I feel like that's the good spot I'm in. It's like I don't really have a contract bad enough where I feel pressed enough to have to move one of them to move off of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that last minute banter there. We'll see you next time. Subscribe at MLB Data Warehouse. Follow Owen. Follow me, Owen _Hurd FBB, right? I didn't write it down.
At Owen _FBB.
FBB. There you go.
And then I'll have a lot coming out. I'll have a lot coming out here with the draft coming up. Been lagging a little bit on the X side, but it's FYPD rankings time of year, which is always a fun time. So excited to get those out in the next couple weeks.
Yes, for sure. I'll retweet them. All right. See you next time. Peace out, everybody.
See ya.
Yeah, we bring the spree. Prospects, DFS, betting strategy. John's grumpy, Tim scouting like a man possessed. Doc drafting comeback stories better than the rest. But the tools are elite and the content's free. And your fantasy trophy gonna look prestigious. ML.